Okay,
Ah.
so we're going to dive in because Danae and I think are a little bit overwhelmed a bit
Mm.
with gratitude and emotion for who we have on the show today. So
Yes.
Oh, that's so
first off,
wonderful.
welcome back everybody to another episode of Cheaper Than Therapy. And today, Danae, you want to take it? I feel like you should take this one.
I'm grateful to be able to have the opportunity to take this one. I'm really trying to keep the emotions in check, to be honest with you. Marianne, this feels like one of those God shot moments just to have you here to say thank you. I feel flooded with gratitude. You've been such a foundational teacher and person in my life that in my darkest, most challenging moments, it is your voice that I come back to and find strength in the things that you have taught me. Thank you for all that you are, not just in my life, but for so many of us. You have been that. And the opportunity to say thank you feels like one of those moments in my life I want to just truly thank God for. Thank you for doing this and thank you for who you are.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's very moving to me, what you're saying, but it's even more moving to me that you would say it.
Mm.
So thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Thank you for the kindness and the generosity. It's truly my honor to think that I have in any way impacted your life with my work. And I look forward to all the ways that I'm sure we can all impact life further together. Obviously, I'm sure what you're doing with this podcast, you're just passing it along. So it's a beautiful thing. And thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that Vanessa and I speak to a lot that has been a foundational principle in my life and in the way that I hold space for others is that in every moment we are choosing between fear and love. I say that often. And I guess to start off, I am curious to hear about why you've made the decision to run for president at a time when I think the fear feels so big. The division, the lack of connection to our soul space, really, from my perspective, just feels overwhelming at times. So, first of all, why you made the decision to do that. And then I'm really curious how you hold that at a time like this.
Well, your question implies your answer.
Mm,
The very fact that it is such a fear based moment is the answer to why I'm doing this. How do I hold the space? You were saying a few minutes ago a quote from the Course in Miracles, which is at every moment you're choosing between fear and love.
mhm,
I have never been in a situation where it is more challenging to do that.
mhm,
Mm,
You wake up in the morning, somebody's lying about you casually, thousands of people are reading it. People are assuming it's true just because some anonymous source put it on the internet. And I'm supposed to be in love and forgiveness
right, right.
to the
Yeah.
point where you feel like you're being online bullied. And it's almost all day, every day.
Mhm,
Now, some people say don't read Twitter, but to some extent, it's important to know the narratives that are in the ether. Social media is
Hmm.
so powerful,
mhm,
and a story can be told. It could be that I'm wacky, it could be that I'm kooky, crystal lady, and this year, much worse than that.
mhm,
Not a nice person, fired people, treated people wrong. I mean, they know the larger they, what to say to create a narrative, whatever is needed in whatever situation to get someone out of the conversation.
Hmm.
mhm,
So when you say how to hold the space, first of all, I don't think 100% I do. I go into victim, I go into how dare they, I go into bitterness, I go into what I could do. But every time there seems to be somebody who will say to me what theoretically Marianne Williamson should already be saying.
mhm.
But sometimes it can be difficult to priest yourself, can't it?
Mm,
Yes.
We can know things, but when our own triggers or our own blind spots are there, that's when we need other people. So
Mhm,
I would say I hold the space through the grace of God and with the help of other people.
mm.
mm.
Beautiful.
It's
Oh,
easy to be wise in the abstract,
Oof.
yes.
or at least with enough work and enough study and enough research, it's easy to be wise in the abstract. But when it's you, but even then I say to myself, wow, what a spiritual challenge. How perfect is this?
That's
Yeah.
it.
Abstractly, I say. So I can see that. And also the issue of misogyny
Mm.
is, when it comes to racism, homophobia, and anti-Semitism, I had a grip on those.
Mm.
I had a grip. Misogyny, because I had never experienced it much. I mean, I certainly knew times when I'd been mansplained to, not taken as seriously, but never on the level that I've seen it here.
Hmm.
And, but, there is that metaphysical, psychological concept, love brings up everything unlike itself.
Yes.
So it is being in the belly of the beast. Another issue, and this goes back to what you originally said, when you said such kind things, and I said, I'm grateful that you feel that way, and even more grateful that you said it.
Hmm.
The way people who agree with me and even know me enough to know I'm a decent person.
Mm.
First of all, if they agree with me politically, why are they saying so? And
Mm.
second of all, people who know I'm a decent person, who might not even agree with me politically, but who you would think would get online and say, hey,
Yeah.
even if you don't agree with her politics, I don't even know if I agree with her politics, but like I've known her for 20 years and that's not who she is. So it's a crucible.
Hmm. I was going to say that I find that, I mean, so Danae and I both come from a depth psychology background. And I think that with our clients, we so often utilize most of these spiritual teachings. And I think what just struck me in this moment was, I don't think I've ever seen anybody in the political landscape speaking about even just this specific part of being in the political landscape, which is the being ripped apart, the being a social figure, and what comes with that, and being able to utilize it as another form of going deeper in my own
Mm.
work. And of course, nobody's perfect. We're all going to fall into the ego. We're all going to fall into the self-defense. But I see that I'm doing that. And how can I use this to kind of further that deepening, right? And I just want to kind of mirror back how profound it is to actually hear somebody in this space actually say those words out loud. And I think that that gives such permission to so many people to be able to
Mm.
look at it and do the same. And so I want to just mirror that back.
Well, every situation from a metaphysical, psychological, spiritual, right, is both an invitation to play things at a higher level,
Mm.
as well as a challenge to fall into the ego default position, right?
Right.
So that's the question. Can you pray for the happiness of every person who lied about you today?
Yes.
Can you pray for the person whose job obviously is to take you down,
Mm-hmm.
or they see their job that way? Can you pray for the people who are not supporting you, who you supported and theoretically would, but you're radioactive, so they're afraid they'll be radioactive? But then the other question comes up for me, and I'm saying this to you with your backgrounds, and this is a question, really, that I honestly don't know, and I'll be curious what you think. Isn't there something wrong, though, or is there something wrong about me being this honest with you on a podcast about that experience? Because, like in the Course in Miracles, it says, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. So
Right.
maybe there is something about burning through something without talking about it. And then the other side of it is what you just said, put it out there. Let's all look at this.
Mm.
And I myself live with the question uh, more than the answer.
Mm.
I love that. And I love, you know, I was thinking about what you were saying in terms of love bringing up everything unlike itself. And excuse me, something Vanessa and I have talked about a lot is that it feels like we are living through a moment in history where something is dying. Certain patriarchal structures that have been at play for a very long time, I feel like are sort of reaching their final days. And yes, we can sort of stand back and look at it in the macro sense. And, I think we're speaking to a little bit what it feels like to be in the micro of the day to day of, this thing that is dying off and the struggle that comes at the end of its life. But I guess what I'm wondering is, how do you stay in that space and not become the thing that we're sort of pushing against? And how do we, I don't know, how do we see it clearly in the belly of the beast? I
Like,
don't.
how do we not become the thing that we fear or the thing that we push
I
against?
think, well, the doctor doesn't become the disease. There are
Mm,
Mm,
two things happening simultaneously. One, as you just said, a world is falling apart. This is a time of historic phase transition.
mhm.
Historic. And there have been other times in history like this. One world is passing away, but at the same time, let's not forget, another world is struggling to be born.
mhm.
So
Right.
we're living in the simultaneous moment of simultaneous phenomenon. One world passing away, one world being born. I think we are called to be both death doulas and birth doulas.
Yes.
Mm,
Because the issue of that which is passing away, and this is why politics matters, it's going to pass away one of two ways. Either enough of us get this has to change now, it's unsustainable. And if we don't change it in the direction of greater democracy, hope, and justice, then it's going to change in the direction of autocracy, authoritarianism, and dystopia.
Right.
To be a death doula means it's going to change. It's either going to change. There's a line in the Course in Miracles where it says, it's not up to you what you learn. It's merely up to you whether you learn through joy or through pain. So human
Mhm.
civilization is good. Things are going to change. You're going to do it wisely or you're going to do it painfully. To do it wisely means we're going to create fundamental reform now. We're going to do it with wisdom. We're going to do it with consciousness. We're going to do it responsibly.
Mhm.
So I'm not worried about getting, maybe because I've been spattered by so much blood, so much mud. And also, I say to you, I assume you're both American women.
mhm.
Okay. We have to be real careful.
Mm,
There are women standing up to the Taliban.
That's
right.
right.
There are women standing up in Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
American women should check ourselves.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying? I think there's a little
Yes.
toughen up buttercup that we need to say to one another.
Couldn't agree
Yeah.
more.
Not being so precious, thank you. I've said to some of my girlfriends who have said, "How can I help you?" I've said a couple times, "I can tell you how you do not help me right now. Don't help me coddle my pain.
Mhm.
Mm,
Either be in or be out, Williamson. And if you're
mm,
in, get up and get out there and be positive
yes.
and clear that stuff." And
Yes.
I believe that we have to stand for being the midwife for that which has to die. And I don't know how you do that without involving yourself in politics, because it has to do with economic structures,
Mhm.
social structures, criminal structures. And also, we have to give birth. My sense of what you guys are saying and my own career so far, we have the birth doula thing down.
Yes.
That's the career we're already part of, articulating the new, teaching the new. But I think the death doula, the part of me that feels that political action must be part of this, sees that as part of the death doula. This stuff has got to pass now. You can't have, I'll give you an example. I'm in South Carolina right now, okay? 38% of the jobs in South Carolina do not pay a living wage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of human suffering. How can we talk about being priestesses of the new and not address that?
Mhm.
By the way, I think I misspoke. It's only 38% do pay a living wage.
Right.
So those are your children who are hungry. Those of your children who are going to school in places where, because of the tax base, they're not even given the adequate resources, so that these schools can't even teach these kids to read by the age of 10, in which case, statistically, the chances of their ever graduating from high school are much less than their chances of incarceration.
Mhm.
Now, it's like in the Course in Miracles, it says, look at the crucifixion, but do not dwell on it. If all you do is look at it, it's like you were saying, Danae, then you kind of just spiral down.
Mhm.
But if you just skip it and go
Mhm.
directly to the resurrection, you're not in transcendence, you're in denial.
Yes.
So we can talk all we want about the spirituality and psychology of bringing forth a new world, but there's no spiritual or religious tradition, and I don't think there should be any psychological tradition taken seriously that gives us a path on addressing the suffering of other sentient beings.
Yes.
God. Yes.
And that's, I
So
mean,
when you
that's
say
the
to
crux
me,
of Carl Jung's work, you know?
it's because how can I give these classes and write these books and be part of the whole priestess tribe and ignore these little kids?
Yes.
Mm.
Especially once your eyes are open, and this goes into the woman thing, okay? They're not doing anything about it. And they're not going to do anything about it because they figure these little kids come from families who are so beaten down, they're not going to vote. So
Yeah.
they don't even feel that they need to address it. And that is now baked into the cake. Who, if the divine mother is fierce when you mess with her babies.
Mm.
Yes. Yes.
And so I believe if we are truly in service of that divine feminine, we need to own her fierce aspect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just like in personal relationships, you know, our field we're very clear about boundaries. We're very clear about when, you know, sometimes you need to say no. At what point do we say no? You can't destroy our democracy further.
Right.
Mm.
No, you can't destroy our earth further. No, you can't destroy the habitability factor guaranteed for the future faster any
Mhm.
further. It just, what point do we say no? I think sometimes love says no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another one of your teachings that I often come back to. And I think, what I find so inspiring and supportive about your words, Marianne, is there have been these moments like when there was this enormous attack on the bodily autonomy of women, and the way that I feel like you meet these moments which excuse me, what is to me a feminine principle of how do we use our imagination versus like just drop into the fear and say, we got to be curious about women who feel very differently than we do about this issue. You know, they also want their children to be safe. They also want food on their table. How do we get curious about why they believe what they believe versus making them wrong and demonizing them? And it was so clarifying for me that like we've got to come back into the space of collaboration. And that is the feminine from my perspective that has been missing from all of these conversations. What do you feel like people can do that are inspired by your way of looking at things and your approach to things to be a part of this movement towards what I see as a more feminine, principled way of holding how we heal all of this, how we move forward?
You know, I think the kind of people who listen to a podcast like this, we are no longer in the phase of people who don't know what to do.
Hmm.
We're in the phase of people who, if they really listen to their heart, do know what to do, but aren't sure they want to do it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's really important that we not infantilize each other.
Mm.
It's really important. Oh, poor baby. And I'm feeling less of that in our field, but it's still there. Some, it's been there. Like,
Mhm.
oh, people are so wounded. Can we all just please grow up now? We really need to. We really need to. And,
Yeah.
I'm reminded of a line from Mahatma Gandhi,
Hmm.
where he said, somebody asked him, who is the leader of the Indian independence movement? And his answer was, the small, still voice within.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many times people say to me, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what God is telling me to do. And I'll say, you know what God is telling you to do. You don't like what God is telling you to do, or you're afraid of what God is telling you to do, or you think
Yep.
maybe he doesn't have enough data. And if you tell him more tomorrow, maybe he'll change his mind. But every time you close your eyes and you ask, you get the answer.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
now this is interesting. Sometimes I remember one woman I talked to several years ago, and she said to me, when it comes to political things, it's just so complicated. I just don't even know what to do. It's so complicated for me and I just don't know. And I said, I have watched you get online. There was a 34B pearl encrusted bra from Donna Karen in 1999. I have watched you. You wouldn't stop until you found it. Don't tell me you don't know how to Google.
Yes.
Girlfriend, when you want it, you figure it out. So
That's right.
enough with We
Mm,
Yep.
really need to support one another. The era of the ditzy woman is over.
Over.
yeah, that's right.
Over. Well, and also,
God,
like,
that's
Danae
so
and I
real.
speak a lot about how, even statistically, like, white women in particular are some of the biggest upholders of patriarchy in the society that there are, right? And we talk a lot about, just this the way that the system has structured us to believe that, well, I might not be in the 1%, but at least I'm above somebody, right? And so at least I'm, as a white woman, at least I'm above Black women, at least I'm above Indigenous people, at least I'm above. And so we do this like, at least I'm above, at least I'm above. And I don't know that it's mostly conscious. I would like to believe it's not. But it hurts. It's a personal hurt when you see women upholding policies that they have to know on some level are actually anti them.
You know what, though? You're talking to me when I'm in the midst of an experience where people who claim to be so feminist,
Oh,
Mm,
yeah.
who claim to be so against the patriarchy, are damning me based on no personal evidence, on anonymous tweets.
Yep.
Feminists, except when it comes to Marianne Williamson. Other than that,
that's right.
women should have her voice. So I'm in a kind of cynical moment about those of us who judge other women who have different politics than us,
Mm,
because I have not found that the left wing heart does not need as much purification as the right wing heart.
That's right.
amen.
They have some what you and I would call mean policies sometimes, but almost nicer personalities. We
Yep.
Mm,
support nicer policies, but man, the meanness I see from people who purport to believe what you just said.
Yes.
So I'm living at a moment where I think all of us need to have mercy towards those who do not agree with us, maybe judge a little less. I knew a woman, I do know a woman, and she was a congresswoman for quite a while. She's not now. And her daughter, what her in her 30s with two young children, college professor, was diagnosed and ultimately died with lung cancer.
mm,
And this friend of mine, who was the congresswoman, who was a Democrat, was a left-wing Democrat, well, pretty moderate really, but whatever. She told me one day, she said, I am shaken and almost emotionally don't know what to do with the fact that more of my Republican colleagues stopped by the office to check in about my daughter
Mm,
and came to the office after she died. I don't, she said, she didn't say cognitive dissidence, but I understood what she was talking about. So I don't think any of us, any socioeconomic or political group has a monopoly on morals or moral values. There are people such as you just mentioned. Look, some I would agree with you entirely, but there are others who I think if they were here would say, I think those things do matter, but I don't believe the government should get involved.
right.
mm.
Now, I would say, and I assume from what you've said so far, you would say also that government should also express values.
Right.
I just think this is a moment for all of us to give up. I just know that that's the Course in Miracles says there is no difficulty there's no order of difficulty in miracles. Miracles occur naturally, they said, and miracles are everyone's right, it says, but purification is necessary first. And that means we all have to purify. We all have to. It's like when I think of the people who say mean things on the internet or write mean, what is the importance of this is Marianne getting into a space where I know that love is real, nothing else exists.
That's right.
Mm,
That's got to be, I opened my talk the other day with the quote from Rumi:
Mm,
out beyond all ideas of good and bad, right or wrong, there is a field. I'll meet you there. It's
yeah,
the only place where we can meet.
yeah.
that's right. I'm so inspired, Marianne, even with what you said about us innately knowing more than we think we know. I remember in 2020 when George Floyd was murdered, there was this moment where I just was so struck with like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to raise my 6-year-old boy in a world that hates him. Like, I can't do this. Where do I go? What do I do? And I closed my eyes and got still and I heard your voice. What happened to you? And all of a sudden, the wave of compassion and the fear was gone. I didn't feel afraid anymore when I held that man who was doing this horrific thing with something happened to bring you to this point. And I think what I hear in what you're saying is our work is to get our own house in order and look at where is there righteousness in me? Where is there fear in me? Where is there othering in me? Because I do think that is the only control that ultimately we have over the collective, right?
The Course in Miracles says the primary work of the miracle worker, or the primary responsibility, I think it says, of the miracle worker, is to accept the atonement for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we get to the point of what you just said, and then that sweet spot, it seems to me, is, okay, I get that he's an innocent child of God. And to find that place where, without emotion backed, without judgment, without any deviation from love, I am equally committed to, number one, holding him accountable,
Mm-hmm.
and holding the systems accountable, which allow
Mm-hmm.
police officers like that to not only exist, but to continue to get jobs even when we know they behave that way.
Yes. Yes.
That's that sweet spot, and it's not easy. That's the work, though, we have to support one another in doing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people say, oh, I got to the point where I love him, therefore I can just give it up now. No, that's not true. Other people say, I'm going to hold those systems accountable, deal with police brutality, et cetera, but they're coming from anger. And that's not it either. We have to find that place where I'm not angry.
Yeah.
I'm just committed. This must stop. And for you, Danae, there is that added thing, which I understand as a Jew, which is this fierce, you did it to my grandparents and you're not going to do it to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
It is a fierce, this shall not continue. But from a place of, I get that he himself, the one who held the knee, what happened to him as a child?
That's right.
Right? And that's what I believe as American women. And I think this is a global, the problem is global. And I think the solution is a field that's global, that we support each other as women to get to the love and to the commitment to make change.
I'd be curious too, like right now it feels, I mean, just in having conversations with people and friends, it feels right now more than ever, even though there's been this uptick, especially in like Gen Z getting out, especially in the local government. I think young people are doing an amazing job getting involved at a local level. Danae and I were just talking about this last night, like the importance of that, but also simultaneously feeling disenchanted with the greater political landscape because of how it just seems like, and I've heard this directly from people, like, no matter what we do, right? Everyone's in somebody's pocket. Like everybody's, some lobbyist is paying somebody. It's kind of like you were saying, it doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, this woman that, the Republicans were stopping by and being more compassionate. I mean, there's so much disenchantment, and I have a hard time, like kind of giving people the push to stay in the cause.
I'd ask that person, have you made a TikTok for Marianne Williamson yet?
Yeah.
I mean, one thing you have to say about the right, they go out there and they use the tools of democracy. Sometimes abuse them, yes. But people who aren't out there being, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So when you have a presidential candidate who's running on the very things we're talking about, somebody saying, what can we do, just makes me want to, look how that invisibilizes me. Look how that erases me. Right now, we're living at a time when everybody with any sophisticated consciousness about the climate is saying, we need a climate emergency.
Yep.
Bobby Kennedy says, let the discipline of the free market handle it, which boggles my mind.
What does that even mean?
The president is giving more oil permits than even Trump, and he's the Willow Project. So there is one candidate who says, no, we need a climate emergency. I would do it immediately. I would cancel the Willow Project immediately. And then there are people out there saying, well, what can we do?
Right.
What can we do? What else do we have? And I'm like, what else do we have?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, but yeah, but that's her.
But you
What?
represent more than just you. I mean, I think that's it.
What is this?
Yeah.
It's witch burning.
Yes.
It's
Mm.
we use the on a psychological level, we use the term witch hunt because we know that psychologically it exists. I submit we need to get to the point of knowing witch burning exists.
Yes.
It used to be she's a witch, she's a witch, she's a witch, she's a witch. Now she's a bitch, she's a bitch, she's a bitch, she's a
Same
bitch.
thing.
And another thing about the witch burning today on she's a bitch, she's a bitch, she's a bitch, she's a bitch. Very similar to she's a witch in that, well, have you ever seen her be a bitch? No, but I know somebody who said that.
I
They know
heard.
somebody who said she's a bitch.
Hmm. It
Yeah.
feels similar to what happened to Clinton in 2016. I mean, it was the number
Yeah,
of
it's an
conversations I had.
irrational.
Yeah.
It is an irrational, and I said that to somebody today because I feel that it's very similar to Hillary. I mean, I was for
Yep.
Bernie, and then when Bernie didn't, wasn't the nominee. Of course, I voted for Hillary. And I had known her a little bit during the Clinton years. I don't agree with her politically sometimes. Absolutely. She's far more neoliberal than me, but I think she's a nice person, actually. I mean, we all have disagreement, but my God, there was an irrational animus. And
Hmm.
that's how I feel there's this irrational animus towards the feminine in some
Yes.
way that women ourselves must speak to.
And I think this is really important that you are saying this. And
Hmm.
I think any woman listening, this is really important for us to hear. And I love that you brought up the witch burnings because there is something in that and in the ancestral pain point of women and how we have shut down women by calling them crazy
Yep.
forever. And this is what we do. And this is how we keep women
Mean crazy woman. It's
Yes.
right.
so archetypal. I think it's the 16th century where she's
Yes.
That's
mean
right.
and she's crazy. My God, it's like something out of Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if you've heard about this Barbie movie and how many of these legislators are losing their minds
Losing
over
their
this bill.
minds.
But it's just so much truth being spoken by women about the experience of women. And it's fascinating in terms of
Have
what
you
you were
seen it
saying
yet?
about,
Oh,
huh?
I saw it
Oh, we're
I saw it the day it came out,
Greta
and I
Gerwig's a genius.
immediately texted today, and I was like, "Go tomorrow. This is like a civic duty. Every woman in this country needs to see this movie." I'm sure you don't have all the time in the world to go to a movie theater, but Marianne, go see this
If
movie.
someone
It
can
is
get you a screener,
Yes, it's
it's
like the movie
it's
of our
so
generation.
necessary.
It's the movie of our
It
time, honestly.
But it is threatening because there are all of these truths that have never been spoken, and I think it's the rise. It's the rise of the feminine, and it's what you were saying about love brings up everything unlike itself. I think these truths coming to the surface are like the backlash is all about this is love vibrating, and it's terrifying to the powers that be that are trying to keep love down. But I think it's exciting.
Well, I've heard various things. I've heard a wide spectrum of opinion about it. So
Mm.
I am very curious,
I would
actually.
love to hear your thoughts.
I
And
know, right?
we will definitely be making TikToks for Marianne, but if you see it, I think it would be really interesting to hear you speak your thoughts on it because I was so deeply moved by it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, we are respectful of your time. I know, like I said earlier, you're a busy, busy woman. But we're just forever grateful. Danae is definitely more of the
Mm.
words person in this duo, but I'm more of like all I can feel in my body is just such a wave of gratitude for you taking this time in your busy schedule. And I know that you've just been such a great teacher to both of us. And so we're very appreciative to share you with our audience. And you have our vote, and we will be making TikToks. And
And we will be making TikTok.
Thank you. I hope you will. I hope you and anybody who feels moved to support the campaign will go to Marianne2024.com and sign up on the mailing list for the two of you. I will be back in Los Angeles, and I will be speaking there. So any support
Okay.
spreading the word, I'd be very, very grateful. And
Yeah.
God bless you for what you do and who you are. And thank you. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Marianne,
Marianne.
thank you so much.